So how far north did the Western Sea go? Like, was it part of the Dead Sea? That's a great question. So they are referencing the Hinder Sea or the Western Sea in the Bible, which is what we typically think of as the Mediterranean in the Middle East. However, the Hinder Sea filled the Great Basin, so most of Nevada. And we don't know exactly, and it did change drastically from best I can tell, from there were a lot of changes, just typical, historical research in what they have dug up. It drained actually from the north up into the Pacific. There was a huge barrier, basically a dam that gave way, and it drained. And it seems like it maybe drained a couple different times over the course of who knows how many years. Decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, That's all kind of up for debate. The official narrative leans towards tens and tens and tens of thousands of years. I tend to question that deeply. However, we do know it went up basically to Idaho. And I don't know exactly where in Idaho, but I'm slowly tweaking this blue area I have here as I learn more and more, because, like, for example, I think we figured out that Tyre, or Tyre, however you pronounce that, in the Bible, it was up in here, was right here. And we know that they sailed, from there. So that tells me, okay, so the water came up pretty close to there. And we know that Tarsus was up in here somewhere, in the big cedar forest that is up there. And, there's talk about sailing. They floated lumber down from there down to build the temple in Jerusalem, which is Salt Lake. So, no, I don't believe it was part of the Dead Sea. No, there might have been a certain point in history where those two were one, but during the biblical times, no, those were separate. But it did come pretty darn close to the Dead Sea, because I don't know if you can see. Hang on, let me get a different pic. Okay, here we go. So here's the Dead Sea over here, right? Or the Salt Sea. It's called the Salt Sea in the Bible. It's not called the Dead Sea. It's called the Salt Sea. So that's the Great Salt Lake in Utah. And then this is this great big salt valley here, which seems like it most likely maybe was part of that as well. I'm a little foggy on that. But the Great Hinder Sea came in pretty close, because it basically, the whole shoreline ran along the Nevada and Utah state line, approximately, roughly, right? So it came up right in here somewhere, and they would float lumber from Idaho down to Salt Lake. So short answer is the inland sea went up to Idaho. Where exactly, I don't know, but somewhere up there. Hope that answers your question. Clear as mud, right?